Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Pointless Exercise podcast. This episode has not one but two interviews with a couple of my friends. The first is Kevin Kaduk, who was part of the launch of the new CHGO Sports website and podcast network and YouTube channel, CHGO, which I will always refer to as Chuggo. He was nice enough to talk about that and how that came about and what their plans are. And then following that interview, I got to talk to my friend and former editor at The Athletic, Jon Greenberg, and we talked about all kinds of stuff. We talked about Chuggo. I pitched an idea for a podcast for Jon and I to do, and he said he would do it. And I don't think he meant it, but still. We talked about the lockout. We talked about Bob Nightingale. We talked about baseball's new deal with Apple TV. We talked about football announcers. We talked about all kinds of stuff. It was a lot of fun. And so, without further ado, because people don't like more ado, here are Kevin Kaduk and Jon Greenberg. Oh, I better get this out of the way. Of course, you can subscribe to the Pointless Exercise podcast and the Pointless Exercise newsletter at, you guessed it, pointlessexercise.com. All right, so my first guest today is an old friend, Kevin Kaduk, who has a new job. He is the head of content for CHGO Sports, which I think you guys should pronounce Chuggo.
I like it.
See? There you go. That's free. Free from me to you.
Wasn't that like the Heckler's clown mascot? What was that guy's name? They had a clown mascot named like Chugs or Chuggo or something.
Well, don't do that then.
Okay.
It was funny when I saw the CHGO. I'm like, all right, how do they pronounce that? And I just went Chuggo, and I thought that's what it was, but it's CHGO.
We are the first member of the All City Network to actually have a vowel, so we feel very fortunate to have that.
I saw that the other two are Denver and Phoenix. Denver and Phoenix. I was going to ask you about that. Does the Denver one, is it in a bar?
Yeah, so I mean that's kind of like one of the cool things is our CEO Brandon Spano and some of his other founders started this in 2015 and 2016, and they built such a following and would have these watch parties and attract so many people out there that they said, okay, well maybe we should just have a bar. And they opened a bar 3 days before the pandemic.
Great time.
But they did such a great job and like fostered such a community out there that they didn't even really skip a beat. And if you actually go to their YouTube page, you'll see like that the other night they had a big Avs game and a big Nuggets game. The place is packed and just going nuts. And they've made it part of the model, and Phoenix is getting one, and hopefully one day we'll get one here too.
Oh, that's cool. So I looked up. I wanted to see where your space was. Did the people from Tango Code leave anything cool behind when they moved out?
No, I don't know. I don't even know what Tango Code is, but
I didn't either. When you Google search your address, you get this really nice virtual tour of the space, but it's not you guys. It's a bunch of coders who, honestly, I hope you guys deep cleaned that thing before you moved in, because they just had shit all over the place in there. But so there you go. Now I know something about your building that you didn't even know. I know who the prior tenant was. Okay, so you guys you launched on Friday, and you are a full service website with a voluminous number of podcasts.
Yep.
Podcasts on the Bears, the Bulls, the Cubs, the White Sox, the Blackhawks, the Chicago betting site, and then, of course, the main Chuggo podcast.
Hosted by me.
Hosted by you. And I saw you got to kick everything off. You were the first face ever on the site. Cool.
It
Um,
makes me wonder who was the first person to be on the air at the Score? Was it Tom Scher or was it somebody else?
I
Do
think
you
it
know?
was Cher. I think I've heard that trivia question before, and obviously he was the host of the first ever morning show they had. Although who knows?
Right.
They had to wait. They had to wait for the sun to come up too, right? I mean, they had to get off when the sun went down, and they had to wait till. Is the sun up yet? No, oh, we can't start broadcasting yet. Well, it's 9:30. Your shift's over. Well, shit. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
you got.
We have a ton of podcasts, and we're adding the Sky and a soccer podcast in the coming weeks as well. So
Yeah, I was going to ask what you had a big addition today. Although I
yeah.
saw him creeping around. You put out that your launch video, and I saw
Hmm.
Adam Hogue creeping around in the background. So he was there Friday, right? You just didn't acknowledge him.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Do you have any other big surprises planned?
Not that I can break here, Andy.
No. Ah, damn it. Do you have a podcast where two guys drink and remember crap about the Cubs or the Bears?
No, but we're looking.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't know anybody that does that.
We're taking bids.
That's good.
It's pay to play here, Andy. What do you got?
Yeah, I can't afford myself. Okay, so the you're running a deal right now where the first month is 50 cents,
Hmm.
and then 8.99 a month after that, or for the low price of 59.88 a year. What do you get if you subscribe?
You get an awesome T-shirt. We got some of the dopest merch around. That's why Luke Stuckmeyer is calling it dope merch. It's stuck. It's stuck by Stuckmeyer.
Yeah.
You get access to our exclusive Discord lounge, which is already pretty active and kind of pretty cool. You can kind of get away from all the riffraff of social media and just kind of get down to the brass tacks with some other diehard fans, which is cool. You get access to our written content, which will include stuff from Adam Hogue, some great stuff from our Bulls team, analytics based, everything from our baseball. We're going to have credentialed reporters everywhere. So it's got a little bit of a athletic flavor to it as well. So yeah, and then you get to be part of the community and family, and like we said, it's kind of built on the model that's been established in Denver and Phoenix, and we're just kind of trying to get everyone in the same place. And you know how it is. Like you go on Twitter, and there's a lot of energy there, and we're looking to corral some of that. And we like to say like we lead from the crowd and not the stage. And you've been doing that for a long time, so it's not foreign to you. But I don't think that a lot of people out there maybe have experienced something like this.
Yeah, I think you have a great opportunity with. Not only are people, I think, a little tired of legacy media, but it's eating itself, right? I mean, they're offering
Yeah.
less and less, and it's a good time for somebody to jump in and just do it
Hmm.
differently. Um, so I have. Did you guys do? I have a question. Did you do a Cub podcast today?
It's going on right now as we speak.
Okay, how long roughly is the Cub podcast going to be today?
An hour.
An hour. So you'll have more live programming on the Cubs today than Marquee does.
Sure.
And if you do pre and post game, you're going to have at least as much live studio programming every day as the freaking
Well,
network that's owned by the Cubs.
you know what the problem though is, like, we actually might have to convert it into a Chelsea Soccer Club podcast. I'm not sure if Luke or Cody or Ryan know a lot about Chelsea soccer.
They'll know just as much as the nitwits that are trying to buy the team do. So have Todd on, ask him a bunch of questions. That'll be fine. Okay, so I was going to ask you a logistics question.
Hmm.
Can you do more than one podcast at the same time?
Yeah, we have three studios.
Oh, you do have three. See, I
I'm
did
talking to you
that's
from Studio B right now.
well, that's cool. So you have three studios.
Yeah.
Have we only seen the one so far, or have you guys been utilizing
Sure.
them and they're that seamless that we can't tell?
No, we have the second one definitely looks a little different. It's a little smaller. It only has room for three chairs, and then Studio C is probably going to be even smaller than that and only be used for like when we have two people shows. We haven't built that out yet.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it looks like a nice setup.
It's
Um,
very nice. It's
so when did you get approached? And are you
little.
like employee number what employee number in Chicago
For
were you?
CHGO,
Yeah,
1.5.
1.5. Yeah.
Jake Flanagan, our GM, came in a little bit before me, but we kind of signed up together.
And then were you the key talent procurer?
I was among it. It was kind of really fun. I mean, I would say if like you were, I think I said this on the CHGO podcast. Like, you want to have fun, like have some dudes from Denver come in and say, hey, build me the best Chicago sports website that you can, and here's some money to do it. And I mean, honestly, like we just spent like we would talk like for like hours at night, like thinking, okay, like who would want to do this? Who would fit the mold that we want to do? And we had a huge spreadsheet for every single beat with like literally every single person that you could imagine, and went down one by one, talking about like what we liked from them, and maybe some people who wouldn't be considered or wouldn't consider us, and then we just kind of went out and started making calls and kind of hoped to be quiet while doing it. How off? My question for you is how off guard did this catch you?
Well, we could. I mean, I could tell something was happening. There,
At
lots of
what
people
point?
that I followed kept signing off and going, "Well, I'm ending this, but pretty soon I will be starting something else." And after two or three of those happen, you're like, "Well, clearly, these people are teaming up somewhere."
So I
So
was the first one to do that, and I ended midway minute. I think January 21st or 22nd, and then I don't think we had. I think Herb was the next one. So was it at Herb's point that you realized, or
it
did
was
you
just the.
connect Herb?
It was just
Did you
like the.
connect Herb to me,
I
or
don't
no?
know. It was kind of the
Okay.
volume. All of a sudden, there were even podcasts I didn't listen to. I would see the tweets coming out, and I'm like, "All right, there's something. There's something going on." How disappointed were you when Yellen turned you down, though? I mean, he had to be the
uh,
key. That had to be the
that was
key of the whole plan. Did that almost sink the site?
I honest I honestly had to pull the Denver guys back from the back from the plane that they were trying to board
Yeah.
quickly. But yeah,
It, he he'd be good though. He could do a podcast. For a 120 game, he could do a podcast at 8:30 when he gets in line
yeah,
at the bleachers to go get his pathetic little seat right up there against the
you're
pole.
you're too hard on Al. Al's okay.
Nobody's ever hard enough
I
on
know
Al.
you guys go at each other. So
No, we don't even go at each other anymore.
well, he's blocked you a long time, like decades
He's
ago.
he's blocked me and people who he somehow knows I know. There are people literally blocked on Twitter and banned from the
Yeah, yeah.
site that didn't do anything, and they're like, I don't even know how he knew to ban me.
I think Al congratulated me before you did, Andy.
Well, there you go. He's a bigger man than me.
I'm just having fun.
Was there? You don't have to name names, although if you do, if you want to, you could. Were there some people you really wanted that you just couldn't get?
Mm, I no, I don't think so. I mean, there's a couple. I mean, I think there's like a dream list, but um, people make a lot of money or have really good jobs that we didn't even approach. So yeah, I mean, I think there's out there. I mean, look, we want to like build like a really cool place that is going to empower people to make cool content and not really get into a lot of stuff that they don't want to, and we just kind of want to set them up with cool stuff and good distribution and get out of the way. So I think maybe going forward, some of those people on my list, like, kind of hopefully come forward and say, I want to be a part of this too. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, from a very cursory look at the people you got,
Yeah.
there's kind of a similar, like, I mean, you can go with a very basic metric of Twitter followers, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of consistency there, right? It's kind of people who you feel like should have a bigger following than they do,
Hmm.
and this was kind of their opportunity to build
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah. I don't think it's any secret. It's like the kind of, the athletic, did this kind of same model too. It's not like they just started with people at zero followings. It's really hard to grow from zero. It's really hard. So I think it makes a lot of sense. But you look at someone like Herb, who I've really, I've loved on the score for a long time, and now he's getting the chance to be on the other side of the glass, so to speak.
yeah,
It's great, and And you know what? He announced that he was leaving. You know, his goodbye tweet got 3 or 4 thousand likes or whatever it was, and he has that relationship with sports fans and Sox Twitter and whatever, and now we've given him the space to kind of just run wild with it.
Yeah, we're gonna get to hear all the things that he said into Lawrence's ear. So
Exactly.
we're actually gonna get to hear them.
Exactly.
So now, did you give everybody on your staff a T-shirt when they started?
They're coming. Yeah, they haven't been printed yet though.
I worked for the Athletic for 4 years. I never got a T-shirt.
I
I,
got a T-shirt for. I was subscriber like 517. John told me once. Or I was in the first 1,000.
well, I
I,
apparently signed up too soon because I didn't get it. I paid for my own subscription. I
uh,
wrote for 4 years and I didn't get a T-shirt. I'm not bitter
well,
about
I
it at
mean,
all.
you don't you're not lean and mean enough to you got to be lean and mean enough to sell for $550 million. So I can understand why that decision was
Yeah.
made.
Oh, I'm sure my T-shirt would have put them over the budget, and then they would have closed. They would have closed 4 years ago, and
Yeah,
we would have never. The New York Times would have never been able to have bought them and Wordle within like 3 weeks of itself.
yeah.
All right, so good. So you're gonna open a bar. That's nice. I'll come down when you guys open that. Um,
Hey, we'd have watch parties. I mean, we're just going to try to build this from the ground up, really.
so is the plan? Are you guys are gonna do daily podcasts for all of the current sports or no?
Yeah,
Yeah, your daily
every single
podcasts.
5 podcasts a week. And yeah, I mean, the idea is, look, I mean, it's not going to be like, a lot of the stuff is like if you tune into the YouTube, it's like the stream is there. And yeah, there's going to be slow days, but we're going to have fun with it. I mean, it's, you and I, we both wrote newsletters during a pandemic when there was no sports, right? We got through that.
Yeah.
Yeah, am I worried about baseball not starting the July 4th? Yes. But am I confident that these guys will figure out enough things to talk about and enough ways to kind of just engage the community and really just become part of the discussion and have fun with the people who are paying attention? Like, also, yes. So, hopefully the Bulls make a run to the NBA Finals somehow. I don't know how they're going to do that since they can't be a good team, but that's kind of what we're banking on. And the Bears right now are going to run through the thick of their off season, and I don't think there's ever a day when there isn't something to talk about with the Bears. So I think we're gonna be fine. I think you're a little too worried.
Yeah, I don't. I'm glad that baseball's locked out because I don't want a lot of things to be able to write about every day. Oh, it's
I mean, yeah, we may be going really hard on the Des Moines news and the Tennessee news, but if you do, that's fine. I mean, because a lot of the stuff is for diehards too, and keeping people up to date with what's going on with Brendan Davis and everyone else who may be Cubs one day and hopefully be the next core of a successful team.
well, it's pretty. I mean, obviously, Cub fans, we want spring training to start. We miss the Cubs, but it's not as heartbreaking as it is if you're a White Sox fan and you have an actual good team that's not playing. The Cubs current roster is crap. It's
I
like we're
know.
not really missing anything by not having them around. But
Yeah, but I mean, you want to get Marcus Stroman out there as soon as possible, and who knows what they may or may not add. And I think the Cubs are going to be interesting enough this year, no matter what iteration comes in. Like, I think they're going to be worth tuning in every day.
well, yeah,
Maybe you disagree.
I mean, what's kind of fascinating about it, we don't know is, I mean, hopefully my theory that the owners really are just trying to sabotage as many April games as possible, and they want to get
Hmm.
started in May. Is we don't know what the market's going to look like when this thing opens back up, and if if you're a smart shopper at the frantic, weird 3-day free agency that's going to start, I mean, there is an opportunity there for the Cubs to put together a relatively good team
Mm-hmm.
on the cheap, which is what they would prefer, and relatively
Yep.
quickly. So we'll see. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm anxiously awaiting that to start because I'm just about done running pictures of Rob Manfred in the newsletter.
But
Just
with
about
the
done.
Sox too, it's like, I mean, you talk about like it would be a missed opportunity and it'd be shades of 1994, but I'm not convinced. The way they bowed out against the Astros, and obviously anything can happen in short series. Blah blah blah. I don't know how the Braves ended up winning the World Series, but um, they still have so many holes too. So I don't think necessarily that if you're a Sox fan, yeah, it sucks that you don't see him in action, but I'm not sure that you're pissing away the prime of Frank Thomas's career right now. Or whatever the team was in '94.
Yeah, I mean that was an undeniably good team, one that had just been to the playoffs the year before. Well, of course,
Mm-hmm.
the White Sox have too, but you're right. That was a much better team and it was the difference. It was they lopped off the end of the season in the playoffs, not the beginning.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, they were what a I can't remember if they were tied with the Indians or the Guardians. I don't know how we're supposed to refer to them now, but
yeah,
uh,
yeah, I do remember the Indians were like sprinting after them at great speed
yeah,
at the time the strike
right.
started, and there were
But if
but
you like go and look at Frank Thomas's numbers when they got halted, I mean, they're just obscene. It's just obscene.
all right. Well, I promised you I would keep this short because you have a million things to do. But thanks for
Sure.
hopping on. Congratulations on your new venture.
I
And
appreciate it. I appreciate all the support over the years. I feel like we've come a long way from Wrigley World.
that's right.
I
That's
just
right.
play, I just placed a copy of Wrigley World on the bookshelf, by the
Oh,
way.
did you? Good.
See if any see if anyone notices.
Every
There's
time I say,
there's like
I'll just point at it and go, I'm in that book for like a chapter. See if I impress anybody
we've
with
got a
that.
couple of kids here who were like, I was 7 in
Yeah. Screw
2005.
you. Screw you, kids.
Yeah.
All right. So,
So if you're
go
whenever you
ahead.
want to come down, the door is open and we'll put you in a chair and we got to fill out these hours somehow. So you can
Good.
remember some crap.
That's right.
At
Anytime you
least.
need filler, just let me know. I
Yeah,
can ramble on about anything for 20 minutes, regardless.
for sure.
All right. So, allchgo.com. That's your home for
Yeah.
all things Chuggo. It's going to catch
CHGO
on
Sports.
when you make Chuggo t-shirts. You have to remember that I was the guy that came up with that name for you.
Yeah, you'll get the first one, and it'll be on me, Andy.
Oh, great. All right. Well, thank you, Kevin.
All right, appreciate it, Andy.
All right. DraftKings, a Casino Queen Sportsbook, is officially live with mobile sports betting right here in the Lincoln State. To celebrate Illinois going mobile, new customers can bet just $5 on any team of your choice and get $200 in free bets instantly. It's that simple. How else are you ever going to turn $5 into $200? And you can do this anywhere. Head down to Wrigley and sign up in front of the Marquee. Take a selfie in front of the Jordan statue at the UC. Do it from your couch in your house. Just create your account. You could sign up right from the palm of your hand and get free bets instantly. Head to the DraftKings, a Casino Queen Sportsbook app now to check out all the great promotions and features, including same-game parlays. It's safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings, a Casino Queen Sportsbook app now. Use promo code POINTLESS. Bet just $500 on any team of your choice and get $200 in free bets instantly. It's that simple with promo code POINTLESS. This week at DraftKings at Casino Queen Sportsbook. So remember that promo code POINTLESS. 21 and older, Illinois only. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 1-800-426-2537. So my next guest is Jon Greenberg, who is let's see if I get your title right, because there's a discrepancy. You're the senior columnist and
Yeah,
editor-in-chief, or are you the founding editor? Which of the fancy editor titles do you prefer?
I I think I'm now just founding editor and senior columnist because I'm not actually an editor anymore.
Oh, is it because you
Yeah, I'm
missed?
just a writer.
Is it because you missed taking my extra spaces out? You didn't want to be an editor anymore?
That was it. That was like, well, once you left, and by left we fixed the glitch, and
Yeah.
he stopped writing for us. But no, it was just a reorg they did last year. Didn't really make a big deal about it. But yeah, I'm just a writer now, just like you.
Yeah.
Well, less like you because I don't have all these other side businesses, podcasts and bobbleheads and whatever the hell else you do.
Yeah. I should have a bobblehead. I'm sure people would love to buy my. I don't even know what I would do with my bobblehead.
The National Bobblehead Museum guy. I'm going to tell him. He just sent me a email about a special. Every time they send you an email about a bobblehead, there's always like a media embargo until they're ready to announce it.
Don't.
So it's actually a really funny one. But yeah.
No, I've got an idea for a podcast for you.
Okay.
And I would just happen to be on it. I think we should do the auxiliary press box. Just a blatant ripoff of Brian Curtis and David Shoemaker's press box.
That would be a good idea. We don't talk about like the news though, do we? Like they do.
We don't have to.
Like they talk about like real news.
The New York Times and Curtis oozes out at odd times, but he wrote for Play, right? He wrote for although he probably wrote for everything. He could pretty much do anything.
He wrote for like New Republic. He wrote for Play. I think Texas Monthly maybe like as an intern. Brian's really smart. Like yeah. I had him talk to my DePaul class recently, and he's great. I mean, he just knows so much about media.
Yeah.
But yeah, we should do that. Just like CHGO Sports Media.
All right, good. Well, you heard that.
Think about it.
I've recorded this, so this is I think this is binding.
Okay.
So congratulations to us. We have a podcast now.
We're gonna find a home for this. Maybe on Chuggo.
Yeah, maybe on Chuggo. So. For people listening to the podcast in order, and I don't know how you can't listen to it out of order, you just heard my interview with Kevin Kaduk where we talked about his new venture, CHGO. No, CHGO. It's so confusing. And I told him that when
CHGO, isn't it?
I thought it was CHGO.
I thought it was CHGO. This could be
I think you say the go, which is just weird. I told him that when I saw it, it's ch and go. It's Chuggo. And I referred to it as Chuggo, and he played along, I'm sure it annoyed him to no end, but he played along for the entire interview.
They're gonna do a bar because their Denver operation has a bar,
mm-hmm.
And they're gonna do one for Chicago, sooner than later, and that bar should absolutely be called Chuggo.
Chuggo, yeah.
Chuggo would be what a great name for a bar. Let's go to Chuggo.
See, why don't I need to trademark that immediately.
Right.
I'll get my lawyer on the phone. Former podcast co-host Mike Brott.
Right, yeah.
Mike, we got some paperwork to fill out before they can open that bar.
Mike, put your improv stuff. Get off your improv stage.
Well, that'll be. He's like, I'm too busy. We got another opening down at the theater. It's like, come on.
He's like, I got a Herald we're doing.
Your parents paid to put you through Notre Dame as a lawyer. You at least do a little lawyering. But you actually got to go to Chuggo.
I did.
And see it in person. What were your impressions of it?
It's fine. It's a nice big loft space. They got some, a decent amount of production stuff for their podcasting. They got the chairs, of course, and the microphones and like a big, computer and stuff. I mean, this is serious stuff in terms of, the podcasting and the video equipment. It's a pretty good operation. I was definitely skeptical, right, of the whole thing, and I think everyone was, because it's not like you and I are paying attention to like their Denver and Phoenix operations, right? Like we've never heard. I don't think I've ever heard of it.
No, I haven't either.
I think I heard of it when I knew this was going on, and I kind of heard the back channel of them. When everyone started quitting their jobs,
mm-hmm.
and then we knew that people that were getting interviewed and stuff were going there. So, right, like that's not on our radar.
No.
But I had a long talk with Brandon Spanos, like the founder or the co-founder. It's pretty legit, it's a pretty legit operation. And yeah, they have this big office. Everyone else is still staying at home, and they're making people drive to the left loop to tape these podcasts. That would probably be like that's a no-go for a lot of people.
Yeah.
One of the
no-go for Chuggo.
No-go for Chuggo is just in today's age of doing everything from home. That being said, what we're doing here, taping a podcast with video from home, it's awful on TV. Remember when NBC Sports Chicago was trying to keep Sports Talk live during the beginning of the pandemic, and everyone was in their shabby homes?
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's a terrible look. So it's a good thing they have a studio. I would advise a table.
Yes.
I think a table looks better.
Especially either that or they're going to need to do, a lot of them are going to need to do a little core work. If you're going to sit there without a table with your laptop's not hiding everything, guys. And wait till summer and half of them are wearing shorts.
Oh.
You remember what was the documentary that with Lou Piniella in it, where Lou was just wearing shorts and had his legs crossed? It was clear there was nothing under Lou's shorts.
Which Cubs one was that?
Yeah, I don't remember now. I remember it's one I broke down frame by frame.
Was it the Marquee one?
It had to be.
Did Marquee do it?
That's
didn't they have a bad one we made fun of for a while?
I mean,
oh no, you know what it was?
Well, the worst one ever was their movie, but
wasn't that? I think it might have been their movie.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I think it had.
I remember
had to be. Oh God,
I forgot about their movie. God, was that bad?
Yeah. Well, two of my favorite columns post Athletic were the movie and the one where I broke down. There was a Cubs press conference where everybody was in their homes, and I got to rate all the sports writers' rooms. I got to dispel the myth that Paul Sullivan lives in a cave. It was a brownstone somewhere. It was not. He didn't crawl under anything to get into the house.
I've been to Sully's place. I went to pick up my baseball writer's card.
Does it have a normal size? Does it have like a round door like a Hobbit?
No, just like a normal condo. It's right in Lakeview. But it's funny because I described it as like what I would live like if I never got married. And just like books everywhere, right? Like he had one room that's just all old magazines and newspapers, like the whole room. And it's funny, during the pandemic, he sent me a picture of it because during the pandemic, he organized it. And like Sully and Mark Potash have so many old newspapers. I really think they should open like a museum, like a sports writing museum, because they have so much stuff in there they've saved because they're just pack rats. And Potsy's married with kids. I don't understand how. Like Sully's just living there, living his bachelor dream. I had sleeveless shirts, talking on Zooms.
Yeah, I had a political science professor who, you had to go to his office to get your term paper. You had to pitch your term paper subject, and he had to approve it. The only time you had to go to his office. You couldn't physically go into his office, though, because it was so full of papers and books and whatever. So he would just stand in the doorway. But he would also smoke while he was talking to you. And while he was talking to me, he had, in one hand, he had a cigarette. In the other hand, he had my little synopsis of what my term paper was going to be. And some of his cigarette fell, and literally papers caught fire while I was standing in the hallway. And he didn't even look. He never looked down. He just stomped it out while he talked to me. Clearly, it happened like 6 times a day.
God, that's the life, right? The professor, the public college professor lifestyle. But yeah, so I've been to Sully's place, and there's a lot of books, as you might expect.
So yeah, Kevin and I talked about when I, as someone that wasn't, in on the inside, figured out what was going on, and it was like, well, I mean, people that I follow started within a few weeks. They were all quitting their jobs and announcing that something exciting's happening, but I can't tell you what it is. And then in my mind, then we knew it was going to launch. On Thursday they all put those GIFs up,
right?
And I was just trying to piece together the roster in my mind, and I was kind of like,
That's your Todd. That's your take is the My take is just laughing at your in case people are.
Yes, right.
I want to hurt
that was not an endorsement of my opinion of the. There are some good people. There's no doubt about it, and I think they needed to do what they're going to do. They had to have, I guess, a lot of people, so they can't all be people you've ever heard of.
Right. They basically explained it to me as like each show or each beat is going to have like an experience, like a beat person, like a writer, someone who's maybe like in charge, like Herb Lawrence is like the beat leader for the White Sox, right? but he's not going to cover game. I mean, he'll be at games doing stuff, but Vinny Duber will be like the reporter for the Sox. And then Herb, and then I forget who else they have, and then like the Cubs one has Luke Stuckmeyer, and I think, for his broadcast kind of experience of like running a show.
Yeah.
And they got that Ryan Herrera kid who I guess was like MLB.com writer, be going to games more. And then they have like Jared Willis and all these other people kind of mixing in. So I think that's kind of how they want younger people that are like, and then like some more experienced people and some broadcast people kind of mix in that way.
So are they already credentialed? Because you ran into that, right? Trying to get the athletic credential at the beginning.
Yeah, it was Bulls and Blackhawks are really tough with that. And it was a big drain on my like time and I wasted too much time getting mad about it. Just being pissed off when we should have just been working. Baseball was fine because of Sahadev. I think I would have been okay anyway, but like the Cubs were cool with us. White Sox should be in the White Sox a little bit, but because Sahadev's in Baseball Writers Association of America, when an outlet has a BBWA writer, then that basically gets everyone credentialed. It's kind of like the general rule, and so that was like a big help for us. Bears were mostly fine. They were limiting us a little bit, but nothing crazy. And that was a terrible Bears season when we launched in 2016. That was awful. It was like, I mean, I went to a couple of road games. I went to like the Texans game and the Cowboys game, and I think that was about it.
John Fox at his checked out greatest. Did he even go to all the games?
Yeah.
Wait, is that Sunday? What time? How about I can make it like 1:30? Coach, you're gonna have to be there the whole time. All right, fine.
I don't think anyone I don't think when Fox was done, anyone around him was like, man, how's he gonna handle retirement?
He's pre-retired midway through the 2015 season.
Right. Man, how's John gonna do this without working? It's gonna be terrible.
Started wearing flip-flops to practice, and they got a pretty good idea that he was already on his way out.
Well, remember one of his last press conferences was about the monkey that his brother killed.
That's right.
Gidget.
So one of the things I asked Kevin was, I said that it was yesterday. I said, "Did you guys do a Cub podcast today?" He said, "What's going on right now?" And I said, "Well, how long is it?" He said, "It's an hour." I said, "Well, you guys just did. You're in the process of doing more live Cub coverage than Marquee will do today." And on a normal day, apparently they're going to do a podcast and a pregame and a postgame. Other than
a lot of work.
that will be more live stuff than Marquee will do, other than the game itself.
Yes.
Do you think the Cubs might be hesitant to credential them just because
no, they have
of that?
To because of Baseball Writers Association.
Oh, okay. So they don't even have a choice.
Yeah, they don't.
And that really wouldn't affect they're still going to do the same amount of coverage regardless of that stuff, the shoulder stuff.
Right.
They don't need a person in the park to do that.
And their GM actually came from Marquee. They're like producer.
Oh.
Like the guy in charge. So he actually was working at NBC Sports Chicago, and then he was at Marquee. And so he helped launch. I don't know if that's like a positive I don't know if he wants that on his resume. If you want Marquee on there.
What's this gap? Were you unemployed? No. Well, no. Never mind. I don't want to talk about it.
It was this small media project. No one watched. It was mostly just tennis and small college basketball.
When you were there, did they have? I asked just from the stuff I'd seen. I'm like, can you do more than one podcast at a time? He's like, oh yeah, we got 3 studios. I said, okay, well, because that was my concern was if you do everything live on YouTube, you only have 4 chairs, but apparently they have other rooms. Yeah,
but it's only like one that one backdrop though. That's it. That's like their main stage, and they have like 2 or 3 other rooms.
Yeah, he said they have 2 little rooms. He was live from Studio B when I interviewed him, which was a conference room, I think, with a chair in it.
Right. It's like basically 2 conference rooms plus their main stage. Yeah. The main stage. I don't know. I'm like, I guess their podcasts are going really well. I checked their Chartable charts because that's their guy showed me, and those are going well because they bought the podcast. They bought like this Cubs related. I've never heard of that one, but there's like a million Cubs podcasts. None of which I listen to. including ours. So I don't. I
Wait,
don't.
you guys
I
have
don't really.
you guys have a Cub podcast? I didn't know.
Right. I don't. I don't listen to a ton of podcasts right now. But I know they bought the Chicago Audible YouTube channel too. That's Nick Moreno, Todd DePaul, and I think Will DeWitt. I don't know, who owned it or if they owned it or what, but so they come in with like audiences already, which is pretty smart. I mean, they bought the Bulls HQ, I think, that one with the Australian guy.
Well, that's why they didn't come to me. They couldn't afford DeCipio.
No,
like come on,
DeCipio is a legacy brand.
It is. This is 25th anniversary of DeCipio. Did you know that?
Jesus Christ,
yeah.
That's a long time. Dude.
Wasted more than half my life.
And it's kind of funny when people that don't know who you are, like, you make a joke, you know what I mean? Like, you go slightly viral, and people are like, who the fuck is this guy?
Who the fuck is this guy?
I was like, this guy, I remember it happened recently. I was like, this guy's been tweeting, had a website about the Cubs since, like, 1997.
Yep.
So, like, I think his street cred is
Well, the best is when typically what happens is I tweet something mean about the Cubs, and then Cub fans come after me. Well, you don't follow the Cubs. No, I don't. You're right. You got me. I've never written or talked about them ever.
Right. Like, you and I were talking about, you could be almost a study of Cubs fans, like, whether they like Paul Sullivan or whether they don't like Paul Sullivan. Yeah. Shows like when they started, that's like the people who started following the team before the rebuild, or even before, like, let's say like 2010, something like that. And then like the people after that who like don't, they only know the people who only know the Cubs from Twitter. That's probably what it is. It's like people who followed the Cubs before Twitter and people who followed the Cubs like after.
We should. What's Jane Goodall up to these days? She could do us. She could study them. Yeah, and there's a lot of people. You still, when you make fun of the Ricketts, occasionally you'll get somebody who'd be like, they brought the first World Championship in 100 years, and this is the thanks you give them. Yes. This is the thanks we give them. They should have been able to dine out on that goodwill for 25 years, and they pissed it away in 2. So no, we don't have to be nice to them
on short-term budget stuff. Yeah. Like they could have blown it out for a few years, and then you blow it out, it doesn't work, then no one's gonna complain.
No, and they just did the weirdest stuff, like when they clearly reined Theo's budget in with him unaware. It told him, by the way, remember we told you, but it's not going to be that anymore. And then he couldn't even, the Cubs missed the opportunity where, that's what the lockout is about right now, right? Where the whole middle class of baseball players couldn't get paid. There was no money for them. And the Cubs had all these opportunities to pick these undervalued guys off who could help them. And they literally didn't, Theo wasn't allowed to spend any money on him. You end up with Daniel Descalso. That's what you get.
Yeah, God. What a missed opportunity. And people ask me that all the time, like, how the hell did this not work? And I got to really it's so tough when you're like covering it day to day and you can see why it didn't work. You know what I mean? And then trying to take it out to a big picture. I need Wright Thompson to come in or something.
Yeah. I mean, I think the shorthand for it was that they had the plan where they spent on pitching, they drafted position players that could move fast. Then they started drafting pitching, and the whole idea was, as the position players get better and expensive, we'll backfill with all these young arms, and they couldn't develop a single fucking one. Not one! And their whole plan went to crap, because all of a sudden they were still having, we got to get Cole Hamels now. And then we don't have anybody else. We got to pick up Cole's option, and now we don't have any money to do anything else.
And then the position players didn't develop. They thought Addison Russell was going to be an MVP, and he turns into a disaster as on and off the field. And that Schwarber didn't quite develop as he didn't develop as much as they wanted. But if Russell would have been what they wanted, then it wouldn't have mattered if Schwarber wasn't quite. And then Jason Hayward was I think Jason Hayward got probably one of the nicest treatments. Compared for his ability, because they won it that year. He was awful. I think people were pretty everyone's. People will say he sucks, but then everyone's like, no, but he gave the speech, and he's, a good defensive player, and now it's he has no value at all.
He's been nothing but a drain on the payroll, with occasional flashes of and everybody wants him to do well. So he'll have a
They
hot
do,
streak
right?
for like
Yeah,
3 weeks. Like, aha, he figured it out. He's like, no, it's 3 weeks. And, like his
he hit during
pandemic
the
numbers look good
right,
because
right.
he only had 60 games, and the one hot streak at the beginning carried his numbers for the whole year. And like, see, he figured it out. He's like, he didn't. Trust me, he didn't
No,
figure anything out. He had his
that's a
normal
great
season,
point.
except the season ended before it could all go to shit.
It makes me happy at least that people like, in terms of how nasty it can get in Chicago, that like people did really like everyone was really rooting for him to do well, and it just it hasn't happened. I really thought they should have like, and I wrote this at the end of the last. They should have just DFA, just
Yep.
released him and just eaten the money. I
Yep.
mean, that's what they should have done, and just especially he also like it was a lot quieter than Rizzo, but he also explained why he wouldn't get vaccinated, and it wasn't in like a press conference. I guess Sadov told me it was because he missed it. It was just guys talking to him on the field. And it was like a really rambling, like nonsense. And like no one really gave him too much shit for it because it was just like no one cared.
Yeah, I mean, he has the ultimate good timing award where he had he had a great series against the Cubs in the playoffs in 2015. He had an opposite field home run that Theo's like, "Oh my God, he could do that every time here." Signed that contract, was awful, but on a great team where they didn't need him, and it all got, I was like, it would be nice if this guy would hit, but what the hell, we're won 103 games and the World Series.
I should find because like one of the first big features I did for The Athletic was on Hayward because he had his press conference like after I'd already agreed to work there, but before it launched. And so I just got a bunch of stuff and saved it. And it was like Jed saying like, this is the modern baseball player. Like, remember all this?
Yep.
Because he had that, what was the stat he had that was really good? I forget. It was like one of those one of the metrics like that he was like, oh man, look at this. And like, yeah, it didn't work. It didn't work so much.
No. And it's always a good sign. John Malley immediately changed his swing. The first day of spring training.
Yeah.
That should be a lot of confidence in your
Well,
the guy you just signed. Don't worry, we'll fix him. It's like, why does he need fixing? We're paying him $25 million a year.
And I guess Maley got in trouble with Theo because he was quoted by someone saying, as soon as they signed him, is Maley being like, "Oh yeah, I know what's wrong with his swing, and I'm going to fix it." And Theo's like, "You don't go to the media before you talk to the player about his swing. Like it's just not, it's not done." So yeah, that was one of Maley. I think Maley's with the Angels now. But yeah.
Hey, it would not be a podcast without one of the dogs. Luke, do you have a point? No? Yeah, all right, thanks.
Yeah, usual.
The joys. This is why they don't let Chuggo guys do the podcast from home. Do you have any dogs? I only have 4. Oh, good. Everything will go great. Oh, yeah, the other thing I remember I was going to ask about because you got the tour of Chuggo was, do they have like a place in the back where they can all spend way too much time on their facial hair? Because there's a lot of mustaches and weird goatees.
I described, I said Kaduk looks like a rockabilly youth pastor. He's like slick back hair and long sideburns and a denim shirt. He just wants to rap with some kids about Jesus. They do. They are very well. So, because Nick Moreno, one of the Bears guys, he's got like a Shams thing going on. He has very, very well groomed and young. Hope's going to need to grow like a handlebar. Like a handlebar mustache would be good. And then you got Vinny. He's got to keep the mustache or grow it back because Eloy loves it so much.
Did he have to shave it?
I think he did end up shaved. I think he shaved, didn't he? I don't know. I felt like he did, and he cut his hair, but
honestly,
I think NBC Sports made him cut his hair. I remember that.
Oh, well.
Which is weird. And then he did have the funniest thing though was going on the Zooms and Eloy's delight in his mustache. Like it wasn't like a manufactured thing. Like Eloy was really excited about his mustache every time he came on, which was great.
Yeah, so I think we talked about it, right? About how there's kind of one demographic among all the people who work at Chuggo, and there's a lot of same. I think now there's some diversity, but there's not that much diversity.
Yeah, they're gonna have the thing. It's all a good idea, and it seems like their podcast seems like they're going really well, and they've got like an established audience. But yeah, I even told that to one of the people in charge. I'm like, just be prepared to change things up. Don't that's one thing I really learned is to be flexible about how you do things, what kind of story ideas you want. We were going to be heavy. I remember when Adam and Alex recruited me, there was like going to be really heavy like analytics and stuff, and we still do a lot of that. Obviously Sahada was a big part of that, but features became like our bread and butter. Weekly Cubs columns on Mondays.
Yeah. I heard that's what really grew the site.
And that bothers me that we let you go. I mean, it was not you, it was everyone. It was all the freelancers, basically. They kind of got rid of almost everyone. And even some of the people that stuck around for like another year ended up leaving, especially once like pandemic layoffs happened. But your stuff didn't get a lot of subscriptions, but it got a ton of readers.
Yeah. They got a lot of comments too.
Oh my God. People up top though were like, couldn't believe how many, how regular the readers were. Yeah. Like it was a steady number every time. But the comments, oh my God, those are amazing. It was an amazing comment section.
Well, I kind of figured that in hindsight, when they finally fixed the glitch and they Milton Wadhams'd me and said, "We still paying this guy?" Then the pandemic hit, and what was I going to write about for?
Yeah, you could have done it. That's the thing. You could have done it. We should have kept you and Will, not Will. Will to a point, but Stefan and Dirk and people like that really helped. It was a fun crew when we had all those people. But the cup of coffee was hilarious. Sometimes, honestly, a lot of times it's the best writing, for the week, at least in terms of actual writing. They're so fun. There's some that are so funny. You only got on the radar once for something bad. And that was it was something with I think you said something about Yachty and I don't know, you hope he died or something.
No, I didn't I didn't hope Yachty would die. What I remember what I got in trouble for. It's when he got hit. He had to have surgery because he got hit in the balls and he got a hematoma on his testicles. And my tweet, I think, was pretty tame, except a couple of Cardinal fans got super pissed and started bringing in people from the Athletic.
Yeah.
And it was when I first started writing, Josias Manzanillo got hit with a line drive and fractured his testicles, and I thought it was hilarious. And now 20 years later, I've proven that I've grown. It's still hilarious. That's all I wrote. I didn't even wish that Yachty would lose a testy. I was a little upset that I got called on the carpet for that because I was like, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't nice about Yachty.
I said something to you, but did anyone else say anything to you?
No, I knew. No, I never. I knew I didn't get in trouble. You told me, and just the fact that these two yahoos on Twitter had alerted somebody in the Athletic headquarters. That I was like,
no one was super mad. They're just kind of borderline. I'm like, yeah, but, he's funny. He's a funny writer. It's just kind of that thing.
He's a funny guy. Just leave him alone.
Yeah, we don't really have that anymore. I know we have funny people, but we don't really have that. That's a tough sensibility, though. And I think it's there's so much to write about, the death of blogs almost and Twitter and how Twitter's replaced so much.
Yeah.
It's replaced the game story, right? Game stories because everyone tweets the game story, one tweet at a time.
Yeah.
50,000 people are tweeting what's going on every second of the game. Funny blogs, there's not too many anymore of people being funny.
No, just the Pointless Exercise newsletter. Subscribe today.
Subscribe today. You're sure if you're listening, you're subscribed.
No, I can't be because I've got more listeners than subscribers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I guess people don't really want to pay for it. Pay for news.
Some people don't
pay
like
for
to
writing.
Somebody was complaining. I don't remember what it was about. Somebody was complaining. So a reporter put out, it was a Bulls game story, and one of the replies was, took till the fourth paragraph before you put the score. And I thought, you didn't know if they won or not by the time you read the post game story? You didn't need that's where you go to find the score? What are you, 75 years old? Go complain about something else. My favorite all time, though, was there was a Cubs had a West Coast game. Phil Rogers was filling in on the beat. He wasn't just doing his general baseball stuff. And in the Tribune the next day, Phil got the score wrong, which, that happens. But he also got the team that won wrong. And I thought, okay, that's on two people. That's on Phil, and that's on whoever edited this before they threw it up there. But that was great.
God, whatever happened? Is Phil still on Twitter? Did I unfollow him?
Yeah, no, well, I follow him, and he has yet to block me, which I find. I mean, he probably doesn't know how. Well, he's still pumping out articles for Forbes. I don't know how much he has to pay him, but they still let him write stuff.
God, we should do like a retrospective on everyone who's worked in this market in our auxiliary press box podcast.
I remember when Phil thought he was DMing somebody at the Athletic and basically asked if he could be considered for the Brewers beat writer job in a tweet.
Oh wow! He actually asked me about that. He emailed me specifically about that, and I didn't like. I give him. I was like, yeah, this guy's been doing it forever. He's got a good relationship with Bud Selig.
I just thought it was funny that he clearly thought that he had sent a DM, and
right.
He's not everybody can be Bruce Levine on Twitter and just have it all down pat.
No.
So I've got an idea for you guys, and now that you saw Chuggo headquarters, and I know the Athletic never got an office.
No.
You guys, now that the New York Times own it, what do you think? You guys should buy Matt Nagy's house.
Right.
And that can be the Athletic headquarters.
I'm going to suggest that. It's super convenient for me. I live probably 25 minutes away from him. Yeah, I'm probably like 25 minutes south of him.
It wouldn't take that much. You'd have to fix his indoor basketball court has an N on the key. You'd need to change that to an A. But it's kind of the same font. My favorite part of that whole, because you could take the little real estate tour. It wasn't the fact that the stupid play sheets on the wall was really a thing. Like, I was naive enough to think that he just did that for the draft, but he probably did, but it stayed. Right. Was that one of the showers has the Bears C in tile.
Weird.
And what I pictured was, you remember the scene in Arrested Development where Tobias has got all the blue on and he's crying in the shower? I pictured Nagy crying in front of the C one night before he got fired.
And I'm the person that got that going because one of my followers emailed me and was like, sometimes the guy's like, I'm just like searching for houses, $1 million houses in the suburbs I can't afford.
Yeah.
And he's like, I just came upon this. Then I didn't do a good job of like doing the pictures like that Brandon guy did. And I just tweeted out the link. Would you see? He bought it for 2.8 and they're trying to sell it for 6.2.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't put that much work into it. He didn't like. That's a crazy ask. $6 million. I mean, I know the market's like whatever, but up here, that's like. I mean, I don't know how much Jordan's house is ever going to get. You know what I mean? Like, 6 is a lot, man. It's so fun. It's so Nagy though. Like how cheesy, like the Bears posters in the movie theater. Like, and that's not his wife. That's him.
Yeah.
That's totally him with all the Bears stuff everywhere.
I just looked at it and thought, God, that's a lot of white carpet. Do they have a dog or they have kids? How is the carpet still white?
I think they have a dog too.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I've seen pictures of him with it. I feel bad for his family that they have to move out of that house because he's so bad. He was such a bad.
Yeah, they're like, this is the sweetest house ever. What do you mean we got to go back to Kansas City? Oh.
His kids have to be furious.
The thing I was most upset about was he didn't even let Larry Wisdom put it on the list it. The guy gave him his whole career is thanks to Larry Wisdom letting him go to Eagles camp to be an intern. Yes.
That house is like it's like if you could really go back through comb through the what's the Tribs guy's name that does all the real estate? Bob Goldsboro. No, Bob Goldsboro.
Oh, not the architectural brilliance of the Nagy house, the actual real estate.
Goldsboro always has like the sales. I don't think one Bears player since I've lived here has ever sold their house for like even close to what they paid for it. They all lose a ton of money. It's so funny.
Well, and the worst is like in college towns when some high paid like basketball coach will build this huge house The only person he can sell it to is the next basketball coach. If that
Right?
guy doesn't like it, he's screwed. He can never sell it. They have to turn into a retirement home because they're never going to be. Nobody's ever going to live in it.
That's like Jordan's house. Like he must have, once the Bulls like left the suburbs. You know, it's really just like Justin Fields now. Can they get Justin Fields to buy this house when he gets the if he gets the second contract? Like no one else could afford it except a quarterback.
Yeah, savvy. So I don't know if you know. I saw this. Bob Nightingale's getting all optimistic again about the end of the lockout. So I think we're in good shape. I would suspect Friday pitchers and catchers again because Bob thinks so. But I was thinking, who's the most depressed guy when the lockout ends? Doesn't it have to be whoever is the guy who takes pictures of padlocks on baseball equipment? I mean,
Well,
that guy has
it.
made a shitload of money from stock photos.
I did the story on that guy. That was, and like I've not been writing as much lately. I don't know.
Was he concerned about the lockout ending?
No, he told me he's got some ideas for when.
Well, yeah, he should have. There has to be a second set where the padlock is unlocked.
Is off.
There you go.
Exactly. Like it's a guy who's just a freelance photographer in Brownsburg, Indiana, and he said they work for whatever site it was, whatever like the photo service is. Yeah, it's like people that provide it to Getty. Like it's like almost like a middleman. He said, I talked to the boss a little bit, and guys like, hey, do these photos, and he told me the NHL during the NHL lockout, like 2004, whatever it was. He remembered a couple like of those, and I can only find one with like a puck and a lock. And so this guy's the first one that got it done. And so the first guy got it done. He went to his park, his like little league park in Brownsburg. I mean, which is where there's a couple of baseball players from there, but and then a couple other guys ended up doing it too. Now the guy that really advanced the genre was the guy who got the lock tightly around the base.
That's right. Yeah, that's
he was building on.
He's the Ansel Adams of lockout photo.
Right. My guy had the the bat, like the artistic long photo of the bat and the plate, the chain wrapped around the plate. Mm-hmm. He said people were looking at him a little weird, but so he was. Yeah, that was my big interview of the lockout was the photographer who did the stock photos. But yeah, I don't. What's funny about Bob? Just to go on Bob Nightingale thing, he's one of the guys that's like his social media reputation and his personality is so much different than his like real life one. Because real life, he's like a fun guy to talk to. Yeah. He's like a good dude to talk to at a game. He's definitely a guy who you're going to find at like Murphy's after a game, like maybe during the game. But and then down at the one bar they all go to on Rush Street. But he's one of the guys that is different though, because Bob's like a nice guy and fun guy. It's just on Twitter, it's like, I don't know if he's made for Twitter or not made for Twitter. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, is he perfect for Twitter, or is he just not perfect for Twitter?
Yeah, because I only really knew him for two things. One, he talks through his nose, and he has Dusty Baker on speed dial. So whenever Dusty needed defending from the media for anything, Bob was they'd throw up the Nightingale sign, and he would get to work.
Yeah, what's funny too is, and people that don't really follow this stuff like we do, will think that he's like so pro owner or something, or pro like white players, white owners. But he fits in with everyone, man. He's got such a good rapport with like literally everyone in baseball. Like obviously he gets a ton of stuff from Reinsdorf. That's been like, that was always his thing. Is when he was the one that got La Russa first, and everyone thought it was wrong. That was like wrong, Bob.
Right? Because Bob's wrong again.
Yeah, right. Well, here's Bob. This foolish. But it was actually
confirmed. Jerry Manuel back to the White Sox.
Right, and the funny part is that like everyone else is like, no, our contacts say that's not true, and that's because his source was Jerry, and their source was everyone else in the front office who didn't want to,
including Rick Hahn.
Right,
who was like, no, don't worry, no, I'll talk Jerry out of that. Don't worry about it. Wait a minute, what? You've already signed him? Oh, good. We checked to see if he has any active legal matters in Arizona. We didn't? Okay, good. That's not a problem.
That shouldn't affect us.
So here's a legit question, Mr. Sportswriter. Okay. You could tell me. I'm really surprised that major league teams haven't physically moved the minor leaguers into the major league camp and would just like play games in Sloan Park. And don't charge the same amount, but it's like and when they're talking about they're not gonna be able to show any spring training games or whatever, it's like, are you telling me Marquee wouldn't want to show the Cub minor leaguers playing somebody else's minor league? And I know those games can be tedious because although they kind of did it with spring training a couple of years ago, where you could roll the innings and you had pitch counts, you were pulling guys out or whatever. But it's better than nothing. Is it just a good faith thing so far?
I think it's a good faith thing. I think that it's one of the things where the union could argue like replacement players type stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I mean, I don't know if Marquee's been showing clips from this minor league camp. Probably they'll probably show it in like 3 weeks.
Yes.
They're probably taping.
They're working on it. They're working on a package.
Right. They'll show it in like a month. Yeah, I mean, people want their Pete Crow Armstrong. They need their Pete Crow Armstrong. I want to talk to his parents about Heroes, and why Heroes went downhill after the first season. Do you know both his parents met? They didn't meet on Heroes.
That's right.
But they were both on Heroes.
That's right. I did know that.
Yeah, they were already together, and then they got cast in Heroes, which I loved the first season.
Wasn't his dad? Maybe I'm not thinking of the right guy. Wasn't his dad on The Office? He was the closeted congressman that Angela had the affair with Oscar while Angela was dating him. It's late.
You want to hear something?
Late Office when people stopped watching. But
I've seen a few episodes. I've never watched The Office.
Oh no.
Weird? I know. I'm like, it's one of those like pop culture things. I don't know how I missed it, and I just missed it and just never caught up. Like I missed the beginning of it and just didn't do it. So yeah, so my hero, I like have very limited TV knowledge.
Oh no,
season 1 is one of them.
Different guy. I was wrong. I thought his dad was one of the other characters. So never mind.
Maybe we could do Marquee should do like a Heroes season 1 rewatch.
They should
with Pete Crow Armstrong.
No, they don't want to put anything on that people might accidentally watch.
Right. They're just going to put. You know what's funny about Marquee though, and what they put on is there was a quote somewhere, and I can't find where it was, but there was Crane saying something like, it might even been me asking him like about college basketball and stuff, and he's like, well, yeah, but we want to make sure we don't just want to put anything on. We want to make sure it lives up to our brand. He really said this. Notre Dame they would put on, but not like instead it's like the Missouri Valley Conference is like 8th best game.
Yes.
And like ACC women's volleyball.
They and some weird like second tier tennis circuit. It's like, what the hell is on?
Be like the Virginia Slims tour isn't a thing
anymore. Come on,
why is this?
Prevagen is going to cut off. Is going to cut off the spigot here at some point. Start showing something good. The most annoying thing is is their terrible taste in classic games that they play.
Oh, really?
They've played one where the Cubs lost. It's like, I get enough of that during the real season. I don't need this. They have like 3 or 4 games from 1996. I watched in 1996 and didn't want to watch. I'm not going to rewatch now, 26 years later.
They should really punish the fans and put like the whole 2004 season on.
They should.
That would be
honestly, during the lockout, they should just start with the first game. They should just play the whole season opening losing streak from 97.
That would actually be really funny. Like, that would do well on Twitter. Like, if they did that for all of them, and they could have Cap, like, maybe borrow Cap and have him live in a van.
Yeah. I wrote a fake oral history of the 97 Cubs, but the Cap quotes are real. I interviewed him for it. So all the player stuff is bullshit. But his stuff, him telling the story about living in the van and all that stuff, and how he thought they blew a lead in one game where he thought he was going to get to go home, and he was so depressed. And then they had the rain out, but they finally had the doubleheader, and they won a game, and he got to go home. And he read it, and he didn't know that the player quotes were fake. And he's like, this is great. I learned so much stuff I didn't know. I'm like, well, Dave, I made most of it up. So don't take that to the bank.
Wow, you fooled Cap. That's a real
tough.
feather in your cap.
Yeah, that's tough.
That's true satire. If you can fool David, it's like when I fooled. Did you see on Twitter? Was it a month ago or so when I wrote that fake thing where I said Virginia McCaskey said she was too old to learn new names, and that one goofball CHGO Sports Updates guy, and then someone else. And then one guy got called out for thinking it's real, and he's like, "Oh, I knew it was fake. I just thought it was funny."
Sure
okay, right? Sure, he did. Like, you guys really thought that was real, that she wouldn't like that's how they run things? They're like, well, that shows how bad the Bears are. I'm like, no, it really doesn't.
No,
It just showed you guys. It's just a funny joke.
Yes.
Kind of funny.
So they, it is funny how during this lockout, with the players and the owners refusing to give in just a little bit to get the freaking season started, they'll still announce things like, hey, we've got an exclusive deal with Apple TV for doubleheaders on Fridays. Like,
Right.
that's because everybody's in the mood to pay extra to watch games that aren't going to happen. That's great. And how financially torn are you really in that bad of financial straits when you keep selling packages to new TV partners?
And the Ricketts family are looking to buy Chelsea.
Yeah,
that can be great. I hope it happens, just because, to see if like they're going to be hated like in Chicago and then hated in England.
Oh, they absolutely will be.
People are going to crush him if they did that. I guess they'd only be a part of it. It wouldn't be like, I think I think Sky Sports said Ken Griffin was like a guy they were trying to, get to spend his money.
Oh, that's what they're. I mean, the kids are good at spending other people's money. Like, usually dad, but they find other old guys they can trick.
Old conservative guys.
That was my joke about the only thing standing in the way was they had to convince Joe that Chelsea's not named after Bill and Hillary's daughter. What are we buying? I'm not buying that. No. Dad, it's not the same. So one of the things what kind of moratorium is there? Like, literally, like, teams can't talk to agents, right?
Right. Yeah, I don't think they can.
Yeah, but don't you think we're gonna run into a thing just like Arturas, and the lockout's gonna lift, and somebody's gonna have like 4 contracts all lined up in the first 5 minutes?
Right. You know what? Like, you think that, but then
hopefully they're savvy enough to at least wait to announce them.
I would think that too, but you've seen how signings go in major. None of these owners want to spend money. That's the thing. Like, the NBA, they have to spend money because there's revenue sharing. Like, there's a certain amount of money NBA teams get, and that's why they literally have to. We've seen in baseball, they just don't want to. Like, owners do not want to spend money. They hate they hate the game. They hate their jobs. They hate paying these guys, and like, they've set up a financial system that like is so fucked it doesn't reward anyone.
Yeah. Right?
It doesn't reward the players because by the time they're eligible to be free agents, they're like 29. And then the teams don't want to spend money on these guys because they don't, as free agents, because they don't think they're worth it.
Yeah.
So like, no one's really rewarded.
That's why the other day I blamed the whole lockout on Theo. He spent.
You were right. I read that.
Yeah. He basically taught owners that you shouldn't be spending money on these guys. It's better to find somebody who's 80% as good and pay him a quarter as much. And here's the spreadsheet that proves it'll work. And it's not his fault that they all learned the wrong lesson from what he was trying to do.
Right. And it's kind of, I was thinking about, say, Ben Strauss read the story for the Washington Post about the different kind of lockout coverage and like how now it's very pro player, almost to like a fault, where people aren't even questioning like the union and the people in charge of the union. But and I was thinking about that, and like for a while it was like every fan wanted to be an executive, right? And they were all just analyzing players, and people still do it, but like, oh, this guy can't do this, and he can't do this, and he can't do that, and they shouldn't pay him anything because he's strikes out. Now it's not strikes out too much, but now it's whatever. And now it's turned into everyone's like so pro labor. It's like pay them whatever they want, and the owners kind of did that to themselves. It's sort of like just this cheapness, and fans just want an exciting like free agency, right? People want like trades, and they want big signings, and they want something to talk about. And there was no salary cap, and I don't know. I'm rambling, but baseball is just, I don't think it's as fucked as people are making it sound like. And I wrote that last week because baseball's it's all local.
Yeah. Like
this idea that people have of like, oh, kids aren't watching, it's these numbers are this, be like, yeah, because it's fucking national games. And that's what everyone's talking about, the ratings or these national games. The national games they're not like created to get people interested in baseball, just to get big markets in there for ratings. right? It's just to show Red Sox and Yankees fucking every other day. The Cardinals or even the Cubs are fucking have been terrible. You know, that's the way you can figure out if baseball is good is like look at the local markets and see like, you know, our kids paying. Like if you go to a Cubs and Sox game, there's a fucking million kids there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. People are like, well, only old people like baseball. It's like, well, then how come when you go to games, there's kids everywhere? Because they hate it. They were forced there. No, they're there because they want to be there.
Right. There's no national. Like when we were younger, we were fans of other players right outside of our markets because of baseball cards, and later on because of video games.
Yeah.
You know, if you had Ken Griffey Jr., you maybe became a big fan.
But
guess what? Like I liked. Right, the baseball, right, all that programming. That because there wasn't anything else to watch, like there wasn't anything to do but like play with baseball cards. Now there is, but like let's say I remember I liked the White Sox from growing up in Ohio. It was my AL team, right? I liked Frank Thomas. I liked the uniforms, like the silly shit. But guess what? How many times I actually watched the White Sox play?
Right.
Like what? Twice a year, maybe. Like my younger brother was a huge Ken Griffey Jr. fan because of baseball cards.
Yeah.
Did he ever? Did we ever get
Right.
When would I watch the Mariners in Steubenville, Ohio? Never. You know, never. Like, so it's a little bit like skewed on how people are talking about who's a fan now, and, you know, whatever. Because like I said, if you want to make young kids fans, well, put together good teams. Like how many kids, like your generation, my wife's generation, that grew up in Chicago, I'm saying, became fans because you were before 84 Cubs, but like the generation became the 84
but I mean,
Cubs
the first game I remember going to was 80. So 84 was right. I was 11 years old in 84. That's like the perfect age for the Cubs to suddenly be good. Yeah. And then go right back to
80. Right, and then 89 and 98 obviously created a lot of fans. 2003, those are the generations. Like the 05 White Sox. I mean, I just from living in the city at the time. Before that team, you never saw White Sox stuff of people walking around the city. Just in like in Old Town in Lincoln Park where I lived. And then after that, you saw a decent amount of White Sox stuff. And like, you know, I'm sure this team now is creating young White Sox fans, especially in like the South Side and South suburbs. So like, that's how you create fans, is put together fucking good teams. Like I'm from Pittsburgh. Think about the generations they lost of fans. Like I grew up when I was like in middle school as the 90, 91, 92 Pirates. I became a huge fan. And then literally they didn't have a winning season from when I was 13 until I was 33 with two kids. You know, 34 with two kids. So like, you know, that's how the Pirates are terrible. Like, you don't need any of this other bullshit that they want to do. And like, and even Theo is not immune to it because he's doing all the research stuff and he's telling me all what the numbers say about baseball fans. Like, it's literally not about fucking TikTok.
No.
Like, just put a good team together. It's people become fans because their parents, their family, right? And the region. Like, you grow up around here where I live in Deerfield, you're going to be a Cubs fan probably. Maybe your parents are White Sox fans, but like, you know, you grow up in some neighborhoods, you're going to be a Sox fan because it's around. So.
And I also think it's funny that they act like if they could shave 8 minutes off a game, the kids will love it then, all of a sudden. It's no different to me than when somehow sports ratings have become like a thing that people report. And like, oh, the Super Bowl, more people watch the Super Bowl than ever this year. It's like, oh, good. So they're still gonna have one next year then?
Yeah.
They didn't cancel it because the ratings were too low. It's like, why is this a thing? I don't care how many people watched it.
That's always my running joke on Twitter when someone reports, like my friends that do that stuff report ratings. I'm like, so they're not canceling the NFL? Great. Like they're not going to cancel. Like people especially love that about the NBA, right? Oh, NBA ratings are terrible.
Yeah.
Like,
they love it whenever a sport starts to go down. That's the death knell for the sport, and they can't get enough of reporting that. And then it goes right back up again. They're like, oh, well, never mind.
Right. Like, oh man, the NBA ratings are terrible. But like, yeah, did you ever think people don't want to watch basketball games played in empty gyms? Mm-hmm. Like crazy, right? That's not exciting to watch. Like, they're not canceling the NBA. The NBA is not going to like contract. It's like maybe some of their advertisers are going to pay less money. All right, I don't give a shit. Like, it doesn't, like, they're still going to have huge TV deals.
Yeah. Well, and it's like why, ESPN drove up. Ironically, ESPN drove up the price on Romo by trying to steal him from CBS, and then trying to get Peyton before him and Eli agreed to do the Manning Family Jamboree over on ESPN2, and then they break the bank for Troy, for Aikman. They're going to pay him $1 million a game.
Amazing.
Why?
Yeah,
I
no,
mean, the
just to
ratings
say you
aren't
did it.
going up or down because of
No,
Troy. Do you ever not watch a game because you might complain about the announcers, but it doesn't mean you don't watch it.
I think Troy's good though, right? Is he pretty good? I mean, I don't really.
I
I
think
think he's
Troy's
fine.
fine.
Yeah,
Um,
he's fine.
I
Like I
always
like
I
listening to
joke
him.
that
I think.
I got a new respect for him because I was just kind of there. But whenever him and Joe would do Bears games, especially after the first year of Nagy, he could not hide his disgust at Mitch and
Yeah,
Nagy. He just couldn't.
yeah,
And I loved it because he's
it was
feeling the
great.
exact same thing we are, except he's actually saying it. We got the opposite, right, with Romo this year when Ryan
Oh,
Pace spent the whole his former college teammate spent the whole night before pumping up how this good young core and all this stuff, and we're watching them not be able to beat the Ravens without Lamar Jackson. It's right in front of us, and Tony's acting like the Bears are this up and coming team. And it's like,
right.
Tony, knock it off.
Yeah, I wasn't a big Tony fan. And the whole predicting the play stuff, yeah, it's fine, but a lot of guys can do that
Yeah.
because you've
And
watched a
the
lot of
guys were even
fucking
saying, like
football.
Aikman's even saying, it's like if that's what we're supposed to do, you could tell from the formation most likely where the ball's going. I didn't think that's what
Yeah,
we were supposed to do.
no, and I don't care like where the I know I want to see where the ball is going. I
Yeah,
don't need a fucking prediction of like, oh my god, he said it's going to be a run and it was a run. Wow, that's
yeah.
great. That's
I
just
mean, the
it's
thing
it's just bullshit.
the thing with Romo is when like he was at his best in that crazy Bills Chiefs game. Like he was on top of
Yeah,
everything. He was going.
right.
But then the next week, Bengals Chiefs was it was a competitive game, but it didn't have the same feel. And he was just rambling, just babbling. He got a situation wrong where he wanted the Bengals to call timeout, and it's like, well, they won't get the
Yes,
ball back. It's like,
it was
why are you
crazy.
doing this? And then at one point they were going to commercial, and he's like, oh, this is genius. Andy's gonna review
Yeah,
this, and like, well, A, it's not reviewable, and B, it's under 2 minutes. He can't review it anyway, Tony.
he's at his best when just because his enthusiasm.
Yeah,
He likes football and
right.
he loves what he's doing. He likes watching. That's what people I think are drawn to. Not the bullshit before that. And Aikman, in a dissimilar way, like you said, he's great for bad game when there's bad games and you'll call people on their bullshit,
Yeah,
which is what we want. And that's for any sport. Like we like that. Like Bulls fans liked it when Stacey King was laughing at Jim Boylan, right? And when
yeah.
people were just kind of calling Jim Boylan out, and even Swirsky was getting upset on the radio. Like Swirsky was just like
Yeah, you,
disgusted.
you
Like some
guys
of
have broken Chuck Swirsky. Make it stop.
well, yeah, like if you've broken Chuck Swirsky, the nicest, like most positive guy, that's when it's a disaster. He's so happy. I'm happy for Chuck that he gets to call like meaningful.
Yeah. Well, and so now Amazon, it sounds like they're going to hire Kirk Herbstreit to be their Thursday night analyst.
God,
That's like
what
why?
a cash
Because
grab for
him and
him.
Fowler did 2 games the last 2 years and were
People have
adequate.
heard of him.
Yeah.
People have heard of him.
So, but he's going to do Thursday night. Then he's still going to do game day on Saturday, and still going to do the Saturday night game. It's like, man,
What a
well,
cash grab!
yeah.
Amazing cash grab for him. Good for Kirk Herbstreit.
Now, one of the things I've always wondered, because like, you learn all this stuff about like the Super Bowl, like the fact that on the day of the Super Bowl, whoever is announcing it has a backup announcing team, just in case. So like
Oh
if
yeah,
Al Michaels all of a sudden loses his voice, or gets locked in the bathroom, Mike Tirico slides in. Like for the CBS Super Bowl 2 years ago, Ian Eagle and Charles Davis were there, even though they didn't have anything else to do. They were just there in case. And I always wonder with game day, what is there, or with Herbstreit, what is their backup if like his play? Sometimes he'll do like game day
right.
in College Station and need to get to Clemson that night for a game.
Yeah,
What happens if there's fog and he can't get out? Like, do they have an emergency analyst? Like, do they break glass and Jack a Root comes walking out and he's like, "I'm still alive. All right, let's do this. 3 hours."
it's like the emergency goaltender from NHL.
Yeah, they just pull a random announcer out of the stands.
Or does the guy, or does whoever
Fowler does do it by himself.
Fowler just does it by himself, right? Get like an ex-football player. Find like it's got to be an alum somewhere that's like an ex-football player in the stand somewhere. No, they must have someone.
And they've gotten away from the like former player on this, like, you can't. There's no Lynn Swan on the sidelines to bring up in the booth. Instead, Holly Rowe would probably be fine if they actually
Right.
put her up there and had her do it.
Maybe
Maybe that's what they do.
It's probably a thing where like if they were a few hours ahead of time, you know what I mean? Then they call someone in.
Yeah.
even if it's like going to be a close call.
I just
That's
wonder if they
interesting.
even risk it, or if he
I'm
has
going to
been.
ask Richard.
They got plenty of money.
I'm going to ask Richard Deitch to find that out.
Yeah, that'd be good. That's a good assignment for Richard. It's
Yeah,
funny. Richard blocked me on Twitter a long time ago for another innocuous reason. He said, oh crap, now I can't even think of the guy's name. The guy who did soccer on ESPN. And he's like, isn't he the greatest? And I was like, well, no, I actually think Martin Tyler's better. And he blocked me for that, for disagreeing with him as to who it was. And then when I started writing for The Athletic, all of a sudden I was unblocked.
That was nice.
Yeah.
That was like a bonus. That was your bonus.
He's like, oh, fine. I guess I wonder why I blocked this asshole. All right, fine. We'll see if he can earn my trust. And I managed to stay off his bad list.
Sure. I'm gonna have to go soon, but before I go, what's your block list? Like who are like some of the famous people that have blocked you?
Who's blocked me? All right, so Bill Simmons.
Of course, yeah.
Blocked me a long time ago. Al Yellen. Al blocked me. He'd be shocked to know that.
I was not happy when we hired you. I think I got an email from him.
Oh, well, that's good for Al. Trying to think. John Heyman.
Oh yeah.
That was I kept retweeting his he had the hashtag typo where he meant to put huge hits and he put huge tits. And I would tweet the screen cap at him and he blocked me. Buster. Yeah. Buster only blocked me.
Okay.
But that's fine. I still have Rosenthal and Passon. I have all the good ones, so I don't care that I don't. Every once in a while Heyman will have something and I'll have to switch to a different account to see what everybody is like okay, oh, that's what he wrote? Well, who cares? Yeah, locally, I think Cap blocked me for a while.
But then you guys made up.
Yes. He had me on. I went on Sports Central with him a couple of times, and all of a sudden I was unblocked. That was a very Cap thing to do. It was, this guy is making fun of me. I will disarm him by chumming up to him and having him on the show. And the thing was, I was never, it's not that I didn't like Dave. I just enjoyed making fun of him. So I still make fun of him every bit as much, except now he knows me, and so he doesn't get upset by it.
And he's got more of a sense of humor about himself than he did back in the early days, of Twitter especially. He was really he'd been doing the Cubs stuff for a long time, but I think was trying to get more of a rep or whatever, more, you know what I mean? Remember he was trying to break news for a while and he was trying to better himself. And I remember he got really mad at Powers about something. I used to make fun of him all the time too. And then I'm close with him now, but I think Cap's he's a ridiculous guy, but he's a good guy.
Yeah. I think receding hair Cap was angrier than bald Cap. Once he gave it up and shaved his head, it's all right, fine. Now I'm fair game.
I think
go get me.
Yeah. He just seems like and once he got Twitter a little more and everything else, now it's nothing bothers him. You cannot make Cap mad. There's nothing that makes him mad, which is great. That's a great, a really good attitude to have. And like I was telling you before, I've heard, I'll have to write this in dollars and cents, that he's got a new show coming. New show for Cap. I don't think it's going to be Sports Talk Live, but
so a new studio show at NBC Sports Chicago.
I guess The Rush does well for their Facebook page. That show you and I and no one else have ever watched.
Yeah, I didn't know it existed until the Nagy firing. All of a sudden, that's where you went for updates on the coaching search.
Supposedly, I've heard from someone there that it does well. That it engaged a lot of their people. I don't know what that means or how they actually value that, but it was weird that Cap has not been had any real, besides the Bears postgame show. Yeah. He was the face of that network, and then all of a sudden it was he didn't have anything to do.
Yeah. And why did they get rid of Sports Talk Live? What does it cost them? Gift cards that they got comped anyway?
Well, they actually, they stopped giving gift cards away.
Well, there you go. That would be the end of it.
And that's why I stopped going on, because I'm I got to drive downtown now. Yeah. I mean, I would still do it sometimes, but there was actually a huge scandal where at the World Series in 2016, Sully found out that some people were getting paid to go on.
Oh.
And obviously me and Sully were not.
Yeah.
But there was a group of people getting paid, and Sully started telling us about it. And he got blacklisted off the show because it was an insurrection. I actually said I'm not doing it. And then I felt bad. It was the early days of the Athletic. I'm like, I really can't say no to going on before the World Series when I'm trying to promote a website. But we were mad, like that people were getting paid and we weren't.
Well, I wish they bring it back because I used to love to live tweet that. And I can't think of the guy's name. There were a couple of guys that I only knew from that, like Seth Gruen. I had no idea who he was. He was on all the time. He was surprisingly available whenever Cap needed him. And there was another guy that I can't think of his name. He did radio and he wrote.
I know who it is. I know who it is. Jason Gock.
Yes.
Goch.
And one of my favorite things was he was on and he had a sport coat on. And at some point, he like lifted his hand to make a point, and he still had the tag. Like, you know, when you get a sport coat on the front, they have the big white one that's like sewn into it that has the size on it. It was very clear he was taking that back. He went to Kohl's and he bought an $80 blazer off the discount rack, wore it on the show, and took it back.
Like, people do that for like... Yeah, like that's
weddings.
Something you do for like
people do that to like woman will buy a dress to go to a wedding, leave the tags on it, not to go on Cap's little chat show.
Actually, the funny thing is, I actually know Seth Gruen because he was an AP like stringer, and he would sit next to me. We used to joke though that he like must sleep backstage. Like, it's Friday.
Well, he wouldn't have worn a sport coat because he had the medium shirts on. He was going to show off. He was the only guy in shape on the set. He wasn't.
No, yeah, that's jacked. That's the to circle back to the beginning. Like, I always felt very slovenly on that show. I don't have a lot of nice dress clothes. I don't wear them, and I'm out of shape. And like, I would look at myself on TV and be like, I look like shit. And part of it was like slumping down in those chairs, and you're dressed up, and like Chuggo needs a table.
They do.
Where these people can. Yes, they need a table. I always liked when I would do the location Sports Talk Lives because we always had a table, like a little like a prompting. We're sitting on high chairs, you know, so you're already kind of looking up. I felt I looked better. If I were them, I would switch to the table. Yeah. That's my.
No, I agree. It was literally one of the first things I thought of, especially since they have to do like host reads and stuff, and so they've got their laptops in front, or they're looking stuff up, and so they're literally like it's like being on an airplane. They have their hands like right in front of them, and they're trying to type.
It's a bad look for the common. But man, some of those, going back to Sports Talk Live, like some of the Friday, it was always the Friday shows. Like,
they couldn't get anybody. It's like, I'm fine.
No, because who's gonna get?
Well, wasn't Friday when they had the Harry Carey bartender. He was just. It started off. He would just be like there, and then all of a sudden he's on the freaking panel. It's like, no, come on.
Right. Yeah. I hope Cap brings that back in some sense, though.
Well, yeah, if he has a show, there should be like a panel element a couple times a week. He goes to the panel.
Right. Like someone
should. I can finally be on because I forgot to be on.
Do it. You know, Marquee should do it. I don't know why they don't.
We'll have to do another podcast. All the things Marquee should do that they don't.
Yeah, let's do a Marquee one.
I don't get. I mean, I was ready to make fun of them before they launched, and then I realized that it was more ridiculous than I ever thought it was going to be. It was like, did you forget that this was the year it was supposed to launch? And all of a sudden, like, oh, wait a minute, that's tomorrow? Oh, shit.
It's sad to say, but I think my greatest, like, advocacy journalism in Chicago was making fun of the dress code so much that they changed it and made commercials about it.
Yeah.
You know, that was and McCarthy got a kick out of that too, but like, that was my big thing, was getting that done.
Just ridiculous.
Yeah.
No wonder Len quit the business.
Hey, what's Len doing these days?
Yeah, I think he could at least get a radio job somewhere. All right. Well, thank you, John. I made you do this longer than you probably wanted to.
Next, you know what you should do? Next one, let's do a live show at Coombs Corner.
Okay. I've never been. I've heard from Pat Hughes that it's excellent.
I was talking about with a guy I know who's a big Cubs fan, who I'm friends with because his brother worked for the Bulls, and he and I were talking about going there. It's got to be for lunch though, because the traffic to like Lockport at night is not good. That's a journey. So I do want to go to Coombs.
Did he just like build the restaurant on the back of the batting cage that he'd already built? Like, I got room back here. Should we put a restaurant in? Or he's like, I'm hungry. I'm tired of always having to drive for food. Let's just put a restaurant up.
You know,
That's
the
right,
only
Pat.
place in the world. It's the only place in the world where you're going to find a framed Ron Coomer All-Star jersey.
Yeah, I always love the careful phrasing of Pat. Former Cub and All-Star Ron Coomer.
I say, Coon, why does Pat always mention that you're an All-Star? And he just shakes his head and goes, I don't know. Like, it's not in his contract.
Yeah.
So, like, I was checking out the menu there, and I don't know if it's an accident or on purpose, but the wings are mentioned in the salad part. So it's like salad, but like he considers wings a salad.
Yeah. Well, it's like your favorite Alfonso Soriano quote about hundreds are change, Poppy. With Coomer, it's wings are salad.
Salad. The best part of that 2012 story I did was when I got that quote, which was possibly apocryphal, because Mooney told it to me, and then I got it confirmed from I got it confirmed. So that was my big success of that story. But yeah, so
All right. Well, thanks, John.
No problem, man. Anytime. We got some future podcast ideas.
Yeah.
Many of us have herpes.